take your seats. The title for my study today is called The Struggles Christians Have to Go Through. In my previous study, I talked about the sacrifices that Christians have to make. But this study, I want to talk about the struggles that Christians have to go through. Because after Christians make the sacrifices, after the sacrifices, the struggles come. Because they test how strong our faith is. As in John chapter 16, verse 33 says, "In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world." This verse comes from Jesus' farewell discourse to his disciples before his crucifixion. Jesus is preparing his followers for the hardships they will face after he departs. He doesn't sugarcoat the future. He tells them plainly that trouble is inevitable. This trouble includes both external suffering like persecution, hardship, and internal struggles like temptations and doubts. But Jesus comforts them with the assurance that he has overcome the world. In this verse it says, "You will have trouble." This means that life in a fallen world guarantees suffering. Christians, like everyone else, are subject to the struggles of humans' existence, like diseases, loss, conflict, and betrayal. Despite these inevitable troubles, Jesus offers a profound hope. The phrase, "take heart," or "be of good cheer," encourages us to remain courageous, steadfast, and hopeful. Jesus' death and resurrection provide the ultimate victory over sin, death and powers of darkness. This means that no matter what Christians face, the victory that Jesus secured for them on the cross gives them the strength to endure. The struggles of the world do not have the final say. Christ's victory does. This verse offers both a realistic perspective and a hopeful one. It acknowledges the pain and suffering of life, but also offers a peace that transcends those struggles. Christians can find joy even in hardship, knowing that Jesus has already won the ultimate battle for them. The victory in Christ allows us to face life's difficulties with confidence, knowing they are temporary and have been overcome by him. James chapter 1 verse 2-4 says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." James, the brother of Jesus, writes to early Christian believers scattered due to persecution. In these verses, James presents an astonishing perspective on trials. He tells Christians to consider their trials as a source of joy, an idea that runs counter to the world's typical understanding of suffering. He explains that the purpose of these trials is to test faith, which produces perseverance, and through perseverance, spiritual maturity. In this verse it says, "Consider it pure joy." This doesn't mean Christians should enjoy suffering itself, but recognize the value it brings to their faith. Joy comes from understanding that God uses trials to shape and refine their character. Trials test the authenticity and depth of our faith. When our faith is tested, it reveals what we truly trust in, whether it's our own strength, our circumstances, or God's promises. Perseverance or endurance is the ability to endure under the pressure, not giving up when things get tough. This preserves us and helps us grow spiritually. The ultimate goal of trials is spiritual maturity. Trials refine helps understanding God's ways, and becoming more like Him in character. As we endure and mature, we are equipped to face future struggles. The process of perseverance leads to a fullness of character, wisdom, and spiritual strength. James' words offer a radical shift in perspective. Instead of viewing trials as setbacks, believers are encouraged to see them as opportunities for growth. God uses struggles to develop perseverance, which is a vital part of Christian life. It's in enduring through hardship that we learn to trust God more fully and become the people He had called us to be. As 1 Corinthians 10:13 says, no temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind. God is faithful, and He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, He will also provide a way out so that you can endure it. Paul writes to the Corinthian church, warning them against idolatry and sin. But he also encourages them with the reminder that temptation is common to everyone. He assures them that God is faithful and will always provide a way to escape temptation, making it possible to resist. This verse gives hope to the people who struggle with temptation. It is a reminder that temptations are not beyond our control. When we lean on God's strength, God's faithfulness ensures that we are never in a situation where we have no choice but to fall into temptation. There's always a way out, whether through prayer, wisdom, or change in the environment. This verse encourages believers to trust in God's provision and to take the way of escape when it is provided. Matthew chapter 5, verse 10 to 12 says, "Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you." This passage is a part of the Beatitudes, the following statements of Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. Jesus blesses those who suffer persecution for His sake. He assures them that such suffering will be rewarded in heaven. Just as the prophets of old were persecuted for standing for God's truth, persecution is an unavoidable reality for Christians, whether it's social rejection, verbal attacks, or even physical harm. However, this passage teaches that persecution is a sign of God's favor. It is a remark of discipline and identification with Christ. Rather than feeling defeated by suffering, Christians should find joy in knowing that the reward in heaven is secured. This perspective shifts our understanding of hardship. It's not something to be avoided at all costs, but a privilege that aligns us with the faithful who have gone before us. Isaiah 43:2 says, "When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze." This verse is a part of God's reassurance to the people of Israel, promising His protection and presence in the midst of the trials. It uses vivid imagery of water and fire to describe the severe trials the Israelites will face. Yet it promises that God will be with them and God will protect them from harm. God promises that no trial or hardship can separate His people from His care. whether in overwhelming danger or intense suffering, God's presence is a shield and refuge. This promise is not that Christians will be spared from difficulties, but that they will not be consumed by them. God's protection ensures that even in the hardest moments, his people can endure and emerge unscathed. Romans 8:31 says, "No, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us." This verse comes at the conclusion of a section where Paul is discussing the suffering that Christians endure and hope we have despite these hardships. He has just enumerated various trials and struggles and tribulations, distress, persecution, famine, danger. But he concludes with a triumph declaration that despite all of this, Christians are more than conquerors through Christ. Christians face struggles and suffering, but the good news is that through Christ we are promised more than just survival. We are promised victory. While difficulties may not be immediately removed, the power of Christ's love guarantees that we will triumph over them. As we face hardships, whether personal challenges, spiritual warfare, we are reminded that our victory is already secured in Christ. We are more than conquerors because the power of Christ's resurrection lives within us, equipping us to not just endure, but to thrive and grow. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 8 through 9 says, "We are hard pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not abandoned, struck down, but not destroyed." In this passage, Paul is speaking about the realities of suffering in the Christian life.